Hello, everybody. Welcome to Joe the Lawyer. I hope you're having a great day today. This is a bit of an impromptu video, but some news came out that I wanted to drop an opinion on. So if you saw one of my prior live videos, I went into detail about the complaint filed by the Republican Party, Sean Parnell and Mark Lee in Pennsylvania, which challenged the election results in Pennsylvania. Okay, and their complaint said that the process through which the mail-in voting in Pennsylvania was put in place was in fact unconstitutional. That was the basis of the argument that Sean Parnell and Mike Lee made to the Pennsylvania courts and to the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. They said the process through which the mail-in voting was put in place was in fact unconstitutional. All right, the lower courts disagreed. It went to the PA Supreme Court. A couple of opinions came down one opinion came down in the Pennsylvania Supreme Court, but there was also a concurring opinion and a dissenting opinion. And in my last live stream, I covered those. And basically what I said was the Supreme Court punted. How you doing, Gary? The Supreme Court punted on that case, all right? They said, look, the doctrine of lashes. They used the doctrine of lashes. They said that the GOP, the Republican Party, should have challenged the mail-in voting prior to the election, but they waited too long. Okay, they waited too long. That's what the Supreme Court said. Everybody vote. Everybody voted. Everybody relied on it. All right, and they never actually got to the meat of the constitutional issue. All right, I'm going to talk a little bit more about that, but the Supreme Court denied it. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court. So Sean Parnell, who was a congressional candidate and also one of the plaintiffs on the case, you know, he hit the media circuits. He said, we're taking it to the United States Supreme Court. We're taking it to the United States Supreme Court. And what he said was that there were nested federal issues within their complaint. Nested federal issues. Well, why is that important? Why is that important? So, believe it or not, the United States Supreme Court doesn't get into every single legal issue that happens in the country. They don't get into all of them, all right? In order for the United States Supreme Court to get involved, or for a federal court, for that matter, to take jurisdiction over a state matter, there must be some sort of federal law that is being contested or a federal issue. All right? There has to be a federal law or a federal issue. And, you know, when Sean Parnell hit the circuits, he said there's nested federal issues. I wasn't really sure exactly what he was talking about, excuse me, because I had read the complaint itself. I read the complaint that they filed. I covered that in one of my last videos. You can go take a look at it, all right? And today, or perhaps, let's see, the Supreme Court, the United States Supreme Court, took a look. I can't even talk. It's 10 o'clock at night. I'm saying tooked. Okay. So the United States Supreme Court took a look at the Parnell challenge, all right? The Republican challenge to the mail-in voting. And another reason this was a big deal, again, I covered this in my last video, is because if this lawsuit won, it would have overturned the results in Pennsylvania. If they retroactively nullified the mail-in voting law in Pennsylvania, Joe Biden would lose, Donald Trump would win, or they'd have to do a new election, okay? It would be sort of a cataclysmic change, all right? And that's why the PA Supreme Court, that's why they punted, all right? They didn't want to do something like that. And if you've watched more of my videos, you can see my opinion is courts like stability, all right? Courts will sometimes choose to preserve the status quo or stability or tradition rather than make a decision that might have more logic and reason behind it, but will have a huge effect through society. Courts like stability. Okay, so Parnell was going around. There's nested federal issues. We're going to take this up to the Supreme Court of the United States. So I'm going to look at this article from The Hill. Supreme Court rejects GOP bid to nullify Biden win in Pennsylvania. The Hill is an okay publication, but they usually have some good info. The Supreme Court on Tuesday rejected a bid by Pennsylvania Republicans to nullify President-elect Joe Biden's victory in the Keystone State, dealing another blow to the long-shot legal effort by President Trump and his allies to overturn the election in the courts. Pennsylvania, the Keystone State. In case you guys don't know, Joe Pometto, Joe the lawyer. I'm from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. And listen, if you're watching this video, please please subscribe. I got 28 people in here. You guys are all in here. If you have not subscribed, please hit the subscribe button. I'm at 770 something subscribers. When I get to 1,000, that's when my YouTube channel will really take off. That's like a metric, a bar for YouTube. If you get 1,000 subscribers, they start to send you out to larger audiences. So please hit the subscribe button. It's a free way to support this show, which will always remain free. All right. So the Tuesday order, which was unsigned and included no noted dissents, came ahead of the midnight safe harbor deadline, which provides states a kind of immunity from congressional oversight into election results that are certified in time. The justices' move leaves intact Pennsylvania Governor Tom Wolf's late November certification of Biden's victory in a state he won by more than 81,000 votes. It also represents the latest in a lengthy string of defeats for Trump and his allies amid their increasingly implausible legal campaign, which is largely premised on unsupported claims, I don't necessarily agree with that, but okay. Among the plaintiffs in the Supreme Court petition were Trump ally Mike Kelly. The challenger's original complaint, filed in Pennsylvania State Court late last month, sought to strike down an expanded mail-in ballot policy that Pennsylvania put in place in 2019 after it was passed by the state's GOP-held legislature. And that's true. The Republican Party held the legislature in Pennsylvania and passed that. Governor Wolf signed it into law. Governor Wolf's a Democrat. Biden won 3 of every 4 mail-in ballots in the state, according to the Pennsylvania Department of State. The Pennsylvania Supreme Court tossed the case late last month, citing the litigants' undue delay in bringing the challenge, prompting the petition to the U.S. Supreme Court. Attorneys for Kelly and the other Pennsylvania Republicans argued that the top state court had violated their due process rights and other constitutional guarantees. So I did not look at the complaint to the Supreme Court. Maybe I'll do that over the next couple of days. I just wanted to cover this breaking news. All right. And what they tried to do, remember, Sean Parton, you need a federal issue in order to get to the United States Supreme Court. So it has to be a violation of the federal Constitution, okay? And for example, the criminal law, certain criminal laws, states have a lot of jurisdiction and power over the criminal laws in their states. So they can mess with them and change them around, and as long as they're not unconstitutional, and they rarely are, okay, the federal courts can't touch those laws. They can't touch those laws, okay? And in the last court that you can take a case like that to is the Pennsylvania Supreme Court. The United States Supreme Court is not going to interpret, okay, state criminal law unless it violates the Constitution. You need that jurisdictional hook. You need that federal issue or United States Constitution issue to bring it in, all right? Now, the original complaint for Parnell in this case, it had a good Pennsylvania state constitutional issue because the Pennsylvania state constitution actually does lay out circumstances where mail-in voting can be approved. And their original challenge was that the legislature, the GOP legislature and Governor Wolf didn't follow the correct rules for making an amendment to the Constitution whenever they implemented the mail-in voting. All right. But the problem here is that that's a state constitutional issue, a state constitutional issue. What does that mean? That means that only the state Supreme Court is going to take that up, okay? Only the Pennsylvania State Supreme Court. It's not going to go like SCOTUS, Supreme Court of the United States. And this was my prediction, okay, was not going to look at this case. This was my prediction, and this is what happened. So, yeah, I'm pumping myself a little bit. But I will also admit when I'm wrong, okay? I will definitely admit when I'm wrong, and I am wrong very often as well. So, but I believe I said that in one of my videos, okay? In my prior video, the video before, the United States Supreme Court was probably not going to look at this, and I was correct, all right? So my public proclamation, I'm gonna pat myself on the back a little bit. All right, so here it says, lawyers representing the state of Pennsylvania, Attorney Kelly and the Pennsylvania Republicans argued the top state court had violated their due process rights and other constitutional guarantees. So the lawyers for this lawsuit tried to find that jurisdictional hook, all right, because due process is a United States constitutional issue. Due process is complicated, all right? It really is. And so I'm not going to get in here. I'm just going to say that the due process generally is a guarantee to the law being fair when it comes to a person or an individual having a right to be heard or being treated equally in a sort of general basis, all right? I'm going to leave it at that with due process because it's very complicated. Anyway, and other constitutional guarantees. So what the lawyers for Parnell and Lee did, and this is smart to do as an attorney, okay? It failed, and I kind of knew it would fail, but you take the United States Constitution and you look at your issue and you say, well, how could what we're claiming be looked at as a violation of the United States Constitution? All right, and that's what they did. They looked at that and they tried to squeeze it in. And again, I didn't believe that there were any nested constitutional issues, as Parnell said. And apparently the United States Supreme Court agreed. But I thought, there would be a creative way to argue this, and that's what the lawyers came up with, and that's what they took to the court. So let me get back to the article. Lawyers representing the state of Pennsylvania countered that the lawsuit was meritless and cautioned the justices against granting relief. They argued no court has ever issued an order nullifying a governor's certification of presidential election results. The loss of public trust in our constitutional order resulting in this kind of judicial power would be incalculable. I mean, that's that's a lot of what's the word I'm looking for? Puffery there. All right, really melodramatic in a way. Like, wow, look, just because something's never been done doesn't mean it shouldn't be done when the circumstances call for it. Number one. And number two, the loss of judicial power would be incalculable. They're just blowing things out of proportion here for effect. The Supreme Court has stepped in very testy circumstances before. See Bush v. Gore in the past, okay, in the internment of Japanese citizens during World War II. So, the article goes on to say the emergency application was addressed to Justice Alito. Samuel Alito handles emergency petitions from Pennsylvania and the surrounding region. Alito could have acted on the request alone, but instead referred the matter to the full court. Now, that's a prompt and prudent thing to do, is say, hey, let's have all 9 justices take a look at this. The court's denial means that fewer than 5 justices supported the GOP bid. So a majority of the court said it's not there. And so what that means is that it wasn't just the 3 or 4 liberal justices, at least one of the conservative justices also said no to this appeal. The court's denial came just hours after Trump expressed hope that the Supreme Court would embrace his claims of having won the election. He said, let's see whether or not somebody has the courage, whether it's legislator or legislatures, or whether it's a justice on the Supreme Court. Let's see if they have the courage to do what everybody in this country knows is right. Earlier Tuesday, the state of Texas filed a lawsuit in the Supreme Court against 4 battleground states in an effort to overturn Biden's bid. Now, I'm going to take a look at those ones later, all right? I'm going to take a look at those lawsuits later. Election law experts who predicted Kelly's case would be dismissed by the court offered a similar prognostication, which is fancy way of saying prediction, in the Texas lawsuit. I may need to take back what I said about Representative Kelly's suit being the dumbest case I've ever seen filed on an emergency basis at the Supreme Court. Rick Cawson, a law professor, said the new one should probably win that prize that indicted the Texas AG. So a lot of puffery there, you know, when these politicians talk in this type of language. I'm just reading the article, okay? I don't agree with what was said on either side of the aisle, frankly, there as far as the puffery is concerned. But here's the thing with this lawsuit. I did not, when I first read the Parnell complaint and then the Supreme Court's opinions, I didn't believe that there was a significant federal issue for the Supreme Court to take a stab at, and the Supreme Court agreed. And like I said, at least one conservative justice had to be on board with that. If you go back and you look at my prior video, here's the crazy thing, the funny thing, okay, is the issue that they raised in this lawsuit, which is that the law was passed in an improper procedural manner that didn't comply with the Pennsylvania Constitution. None of the courts actually addressed that issue. Okay, none of them addressed that issue. The PA Supreme Court did not address that issue. The United States Supreme Court did not address that issue. They just invoked the doctrine of lashes, which basically says you waited too long, all right? But they never said whether or not that was actually true, okay? And so it could be that it actually is unconstitutional. But the Pennsylvania Constitution, it's unconstitutional under the state constitution. That could be the case. And perhaps I'm going to take a harder look at that later on. But the courts never addressed it. They never addressed it. They said, you waited too long, this would cause too much damage, so we're going to punt on it. This was maybe a missed opportunity, okay, for the Trump campaign, the conservative movement, because if they had brought the challenge earlier on, let's say at the beginning of, before the election, if they brought the challenge in January 2020, and this is one of the reasons the court's not going to take any action, if they had brought the challenge on January 2020, the court may have listened to it on its merits. And now, maybe in the future months, the court may listen to it on its merits, okay? But if they had brought it earlier, the courts may have listened to it on its merits and would have given the Republican Party a chance of knocking out mail-in voting in Pennsylvania prior to the election. Now, why did they not do that? I don't know. Maybe they thought it wouldn't matter. Maybe they didn't know how bad mail-in voting would hurt Republicans. So their calculation was, we can win despite the mail-in voting, or mail-in voting may not hurt us that bad. You know, it turned out that it was 3 out of 4 mail-in votes in Pennsylvania went for Biden and the Democrats. So the strategy here by the Republicans is maybe really what failed them. But you also need to look at the courts and you got to say, well, you never addressed this constitutional issue. Okay, and then that brings me back to what I said in some videos before. The courts, they want stability, okay? Ultimately, at the end of the day, a court of law, a trial, is a place to resolve disputes. It's a place to resolve disputes, right? Back in the, what did you have back in the day, you could challenge someone to a duel. On Game of Thrones, you could have trial by combat, and if you go back far enough, they used to float people out on boats, and if you floated, you lived, and if you sunk, you died. I mean, all kinds of crazy stuff, okay? The courts are there to decide disputes, and frankly, and this is something I've learned in my practice of law, and it's good for a lawyer to know this, all right, because you have to plan, you have to have a strategy to win your case, okay? You have to have a strategy to win your case. Is that the courts, there's ways for them to get around. I know nobody wants to hear, okay, but there's ways for them, and there's weird legal doctrines, like the doctrine of lashes, that allow them to get around the black letter of the law, okay? And that's just a fact. And it's still legal because they're relying on different legal principles, okay, that have been passed down from generation to generation. And if the argument is strong enough in a certain instance, they can get past the black letter law, which is sort of what happened here. So later on, I'm going to take a look at what Parnell and Lee's, and the reason I'm focusing on this, everyone, okay, is I'm from Pennsylvania, okay? I live in Pittsburgh, I live in Pennsylvania. We got flooded with so many damn political commercials this year. All right, my head was going to explode. I don't really watch TV at home. All right, I have cable television so that I can watch football, I can watch sports. I don't really watch the news on TV. All right, I get all my news from the internet. All right, I click through my different pages. All right, but I go over my friends or my family's house. I go over my family's house, and they like to watch TV. All right, my dad, my grandma, and in Pennsylvania, we just got bombed with political commercials. I would go prior to the election. I'm watching football at my dad's house, and every commercial, Biden, Trump, Biden, Trump, Biden, Trump, but just not blasted. I've never seen anything like it. Never seen anything like it. And just the political side, everything, you know. So in Pennsylvania, we just get hammered with advertising. It's like, oh, you want to be a swing state, you get more attention. No, I don't want to be a swing state. I don't want my television and my visual field to be dominated by both presidential candidates, okay? We get blasted in these swing states. And you guys who live in swing states, I'm sure the experience is similar. Ohio, Florida, Wisconsin, Michigan. I mean, if you live in California or New York, the two most populous states, well, Texas, but if you live in the states that are already decided, you're not going to get pounded like we do in Pennsylvania every year. We get pounded. So I'm glad it's over in that sense, and that's why I'm focusing on this case, these lawsuits in particular, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in, I'm going to see if in different circumstances, if this lawsuit would have won. That's just fascinating to me. Also, in some future episodes, I'm going to take a look at these Texas lawsuits, which I don't like the language that's used in the, blah, blah, blah. Everybody wants to play politics in their comments. Okay, I'll judge the lawsuits by what's in them. All right, let me see what's in them. Let me see, read the complaints, and we'll do an analysis of those complaints. You guys, let me know if you like me doing this lawsuit analysis. I'm actually thinking of turning this channel into cover two things. I'm gonna analyze lawsuits and legal news, lawsuits and legal news from the perspective of Joe the lawyer. All right, that's what you're going to get on this channel going forward, lawsuits and legal news. So I'm going to keep up with things that are happening in the times. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Please subscribe, hit the subscribe, like my channel too, leave a comment as well, please. But what I'm really asking is for subscriptions, all right, because that's what I need right now. I need to get to 1,000. I got a few more minutes, so before we close out this video, if anybody wants to shoot some questions at me, I'll take a couple of questions. I see some familiar faces. Brooke, thank you for jumping in. Carl, thank you. Angela, good to see you guys. Some new names as well. Tamahawk, Gary, you're not new. Ken, thank you, everybody, for jumping in. Beverly, thank you. And again, the lesson here is that one of the bigger lessons here is that the United States Supreme Court doesn't hear, first of all, they don't hear most of the cases that come to them. But they cannot hear cases that only have state issues. We have a federalist system, all right? And federalism means that their power is divided between the 50 states and the central government. It's also divided in other ways, but power is divided between the 50 states Brooke, thank you. Power is divided between, I'm trying to look like a lawyer for these channels now, okay, instead of just rocking a t-shirt. But power is divided between the state and the federal government. The Supreme Court, only if it violates the United States Constitution or a federal law can the Supreme Court get involved. It has to be a federal issue. It has to be. And they just didn't have that here. And that was my opinion. Now, I think that Parnell and Lee in this lawsuit actually have a good issue. They have a good issue, which the court never addressed. But it is not a federal issue. It is not a federal issue. So thanks for the comment on the sweater vest book. You know, I try to change it up. The thing is, I have days where I go into the office and I don't have to wear a suit, okay, and I don't have to be that formal. So I still like to look semi-formal, right, business casual, and I enjoy the sweater vest as well. So non parler François, non parler François. Only no habla español either, but I can speak a little Japanese. Nihongo ga wakarimashita. Anyway, thank you everybody for tuning in. Thank you very much for what you do. Mr. Serious, I appreciate it. You're new to the channel. Thanks for jumping in. You guys go ahead, spread this around to your friends. Like I said, I'm gonna try to come at news and lawsuits on a critical, logical way, all right? And, you know, we all have our political opinions, but my goal is to sift through that, okay? Because even you read an article like The Hill, and it's got a political slant to it. I mean, so much of our media these days, it's nonstop. So my goal is to be critical and try to be unbiased in my examination of legal news and lawsuits and big national lawsuits, etc. So thank you, everybody. Go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and comment for me. Free way to support the show. Go ahead and leave a like. Most importantly, subscribe and spread. You can share this video and spread the word to your friends. All right. Thank you, everybody, for jumping in. I'm going to head out. Peace. Have a nice evening.